This is Locked On Bets, the daily betting show that means business from the Locked On Podcast Network. Hosted by Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they're dropping fearless picks with an inside edge to put money in your pocket. If there's action, they've got the lock. This is where smart bets start. It's Locked On Bets.
Welcome to the Thursday edition of Locked On Bets. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports with you. And as always, we appreciate you making Locked On Bets your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Very busy show today as football resumes. It's Thursday, and we have the Seahawks and the Cardinals out in Arizona to kick off Week 4. Couple best bets on that game coming up. Also, Lee has another UFC bet from Perth, Australia, and that is coming up as well. And Major League Baseball, the regular season winding down, but still some work to do for some of these teams to get in the playoffs. So we'll talk about some of that also. And Lee, let's get it going with the hidden gem.
To find a diamond in the rough, you need to dig a little deeper for those hidden gems.
The Angels beat the Royals last night, so the Royals, we closed the book on them for the playoffs, but the Angels looking for another win today. Disappointing season for them. And Jo Adell, what do you have for him for a base prop this evening, Lee, for a hidden gem?
When the pressure is on is when the Angels play their best baseball. Just kidding. They are, like I said, when no one notices, they'll run off a streak and they'll win. This is a franchise going nowhere. But Jo Adell is having a pretty darn good season. 36 homers, 96 RBIs. Half the people who follow baseball couldn't tell you who he is, but I like him tonight over 1.5 bases minus 105. So in his career, Adell's hitting 500 off Michael Lorenzen, with one of those hits being a home run. He's been playing much better this year, and this is a good matchup. Also, the weather looks good. So, like I said, it's not a game that I'm excited to watch. Game means absolutely nothing now. Kansas City's out of the race, and the Angels are always out of the race over the last decade. But Jo Adell has a really nice matchup here against this pitcher, and I think he's going to bang a double or a home run in one of the first two at-bats here, and I can turn it off and watch the football game. So Jo Adell over 1.5 bases minus 105 is going to be my first hidden gem.
Yeah, we used up all the blowouts this week, so I don't have any on the show today. So we have a couple hidden gems. We have a lock. We have wrong team favored. Want to bring this up before we get to some college football, Lee. So the Detroit Tigers basically had the AL Central clinched in July. It felt that way. They had a double-digit lead. They were rolling. There weren't really any odds for anybody else to win that division. And then slowly but surely, the oil started to leak a little bit. Cleveland caught fire. They were terrible the first half of the season. And now, a few days left in the Major League Baseball season, the Cleveland Guardians are atop the AL Central, 1 game up on Detroit. They swept them last week. They took the first 2 at home. It's just amazing. Detroit kind of missing the playoffs when it's all said and done if Houston jumps them.
Crazy. I do a couple shows each week in Detroit and already did one earlier today, and they are on meltdown. You would think after they beat the Baltimore Ravens and the Lions winning, the city would be all excited again. Not the case. They are in, suicide watch here, and it just makes no sense. It just shows you it's sports. Anything can happen. You can't just turn it off and turn it back on. And some reason they have got nice pieces. Now, why is Cleveland also playing so well? A lot of young pitchers, young pitching staff starting to come around, and timely hitting. It's not like they're hitting great, but timely hitting. So you match those things together, and a team that's just cold and can't get it going again. They can't win a close game, and then they get blown out. A bunch of these games lately. I don't know if there is an answer. I don't know if they can recover. It might be too late.
And also, when you look at the Houston Astros, who got passed by Seattle, the Mariners won the AL West. Houston's lost 5 in a row. They lost 2 to the Athletics. They got swept by the Mariners at home. So really, nobody wants that final wild card berth, because we're going to assume that the Red Sox get the second one. Then that third one, it feels like nobody wants it.
Yeah, and they'll probably whoever does get it is going to get bounced. And, could kind of be the same way in the other in the NL. You know, the Mets and the Reds, and I mean, it's been an absolute mess. So these teams that are fighting for a wild card that are in a tailspin just can't seem to get out of it. But makes for exciting baseball and great storylines, and that's what baseball wants. So ultimately, I don't think it's always like the NFL. The last team in as the wild card usually gets bounced and gets blown out in that first game. So ultimately, it's not going to make much of a difference. But for people, you know, going to these games, I have a lot of friends who live in Cincinnati, a lot of clients, and they're going to the games. They're like, "What do you think tonight?" And I'm like, I don't know. But like I said, it's great. It's great to talk about. It's fun to watch. But in the end, these teams that get the final wild card, not going to be around long, in my opinion.
Now, to recap last night's picks quickly, we only had 2 of them. Lee had Max Fried over on his strikeouts, and he got there against the White Sox. So that was a good call. And for you just mentioned the Reds, I had them in the first 5. Hunter Green pitched well. He had a few batters that got away from him. Paul Skeens was better. Pittsburgh led 1-0 after 5. Pittsburgh won the game in extra innings, but the Reds did have a runner on third with 1 out in the 5th. You thought maybe had a shot there. Couldn't bring him in to even get the push.
I might have even gone. I was watching the game. I might have gone with the suicide squeeze. So
I agree with you. You got to do something. If you're not going to hit off him, do something to catch them off guard.
Right. And they wouldn't have expected. I'm almost sure they would have scored. But, you know, these managers, you know, they've changed the way that they play. It's all about the long ball. You got to move guys across, you know, do something that's a little bit different. Play small ball once in a while. You know, I know these guys take a couple bunts, you know, and I'll go to batting practice 4 games, couple quick bunts, but they just don't take it serious enough. And that's why some of the managing by some of these teams has to be questioned. And you might see some changes take place. And Cincinnati's been better this year than the last couple of years, but certainly, you know, these teams that have gone into a tailspin and not won key games and had a bunch of 1-run losses, I think a lot of it's on the manager.
Yeah, and I think, too, in that situation, you got to do anything to get it in. And it doesn't have to be a base, especially against a guy like Paul Skeens. Like, he's going to strike everyone out. Like, find a way to just put the ball on the ground and get that 1 run in and see if you can get that 1 run across. Okay, so now let's go to our second play, Lee. And guess what time it is? Wrong team favorite.
What the
WTF.
Lee, I do like situations in college football. I mean, more so than the NFL because you have some bigger numbers to play with in college than the NFL. But I do like situations where a team is off a bad loss as a big favorite. Now you're getting them as a big dog, maybe a chance to take them. And that's the situation here. South Alabama takes on North Texas. And I'm taking South Alabama plus 12.5. South Alabama last week, -3 in the turnovers against Coastal Carolina. They actually led 14-7 in that game. Coastal Carolina beat them 38-20. South Alabama laid 16 points in that game, and Coastal Carolina won the game outright. So now South Alabama's flipped to a double-digit underdog. North Texas, they outlasted Army last week in overtime. Again, North Texas seemed to be in control of. Army came back, and then North Texas ended up winning in overtime. But the Mean Green, 2 of their wins in overtime this year, beating Western Michigan and Army. They also beat a terrible Washington State team by 49 points. That doesn't tell me much. But last year, North Texas did win against South Alabama on the road, 52-38 as a 6-point dog. Now you're laying 12.5. Let's take the points with the Jaguars of South Alabama here, Lee, as our wrong team favorite.
I think they can be right in the game. They might even win the game if they don't turn the ball over. If they turn it over 2 or less times, I think they'll cover. So some of these teams, these young teams, you know, with new quarterbacks, the key is, and you see it in the NFL all the time, don't turn the ball over. Team with the least amount of turnovers almost always wins the game. It's that simple.
Now, you're going to have a lot of plays this weekend for college football, and there's so many big games. For you personally, what is the one game out of all of them that you're looking forward to watching the most, you're most intrigued by out of all of them?
Probably the Texas A&M Auburn game. And the reason I say that, I want to find out, they're ranked number 9, how good they are. Are they going to be able to take advantage of an Auburn team maybe coming off a disappointing loss at Oklahoma where they fought hard? I mean, that was a physical game. So I want to see the game planning here in Texas A&M. They're going to have to run the football better. I love their two receivers. I mean, they got two guys that I think are going to be something special already, Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. So it's going to be interesting to see if they keep throwing the ball well and they can develop a running game here. So they could be a player. No one's talking about them. Everyone's talking about the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Tennessees, and the Oklahomas. A&M's under the radar here, and I like their coach, Mike Elko. Want to see if they're ready for prime time.
Yeah, we got a lot of big games in the SEC this weekend. Also, one that's kind of under the radar, kind of curious about really quick before we get some more picks. But Arkansas, after they blew that big game against Memphis, now they're hosting Notre Dame. It's kind of an odd game for Notre Dame to go on the road for. And the Fighting Irish finally got their first win of the season. I mean, it'd be Purdue, which they should have beat. But that's kind of one where Sam Pittman, if he gets this, you feel like maybe he saves his job. But if they have an embarrassing performance against Notre Dame, maybe he could be the next one to go.
I agree. Great point, Kevin. I think that a loss here and probably seals his fate here. Dynamic quarterback. I mean, he's got a guy that can make plays that maybe only 4 or 5 in college football can make with his legs and his arm, but he misreads almost every big game. Just look it up. 2 interceptions. I mean, and those turnovers, we talk about it time and time again, cost you. And they cost him in that Memphis game. They were up big. I mean, they were up, I think, 17 points at one time. So you gotta be able to take care of the ball, and their cornerbacks are awful. They can't make any plays. So I expect Notre Dame actually to throw the ball more than they have. C.J. Carr had the best quarterback rating last week than a Notre Dame quarterback has had, I think, in over a decade. So C.J. Carr underrated. We're going to find out, if Notre Dame has played 2 really good teams and then 1 bad team. Now they're playing a team that's a little above average. Are they for real? Can they get back, in the top 10, 15, and maybe have a chance to make the playoffs? Or is their season going to be over at 1-3?
Yeah, we'll see how Notre Dame responds here against Arkansas on the road on Saturday. We got some NFL to get to. Seahawks and the Cardinals, a double dip with that. We have a player prop and a side in that. Also, UFC Perth in Australia. Best bet for that. All of that is straight ahead. You are listening to Locked On Bets. Let's talk now about FanDuel, and that's right, we're back with the NFL. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Week 4 starts tonight in Arizona. It's the Cardinals hosting the Seahawks, and Seattle a short favorite at FanDuel. And you have plenty of choices for this game tonight. You want your quarterback props with Sam Darnold, with Kyler Murray. Trey Benson's now the starting running back for the Cardinals after James Conner got hurt. So check out his running back props to see if Marvin Harrison Jr. can bounce back as well for Arizona. And you have the side that's holding the money line for this game tonight. Or if you want to go even further, you got games on Sunday. You got a full load of games. Ravens, Chiefs late in the afternoon. Coming up on Sunday, also Jackson Dart makes his debut for the Giants against the Chargers. You have player props for him as well. And right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Also, if you want to bet on futures, Josh Allen of the Bills, he is the favorite for MVP at FanDuel. Also, Buffalo, the Super Bowl favorites at FanDuel as well. And also the Eagles hanging around. They did win the Super Bowl last year, so they should be up there. Also, Baltimore, after their struggles early on, they're still one of the favorites at FanDuel to win the Super Bowl. So you have a lot of choices on futures, on games, on player props, all of that at FanDuel. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. We continue here, Locked On Bets on a Thursday. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports. And we continue with week 4 of the NFL. The Seahawks looking to stay hot on the road against the Cardinals. And it's time now for another wrong, I guess we could say, player favorite.
What the fuck?
WTF.
We'll get that imaging next time for wrong player favored. All right, Lee. Kenneth Walker of the Seahawks, his rushing attempts tonight. What do you think with that as Seattle heads down to Arizona?
So if you're doing your modeling, you're saying to yourself, okay, Kenneth Walker, 14 and a half rush attempts, primetime game, 39 rushes in 3 games. That's 13 a game. And he had 16 in the last game. But, it's always a but, there was no Zach Charbonneau. And he will be back for tonight, will Zach. Walker has been dinged up for most of the year already, as always. And I think we're going to see maybe a 60-40, 50-50 split here. And short week has to be factored in here. Want to keep both guys fresh here. And I just think that it's off here. I could see him getting 9-10 rushing attempts. And Charbonneau, if he looks good, staying in there quite a bit. And he's also a good pass receiver. Both guys are good. Not that much of a difference here between these two. So just think that the public's going to be on the Kenneth Walker over. I'm on the under 14 and a half rush attempts, minus 150. And like I said, it's going to be my wrong player, wrong/team favored, Kenneth Walker, under the 14 and a half rush attempts.
And even last week, Lee, against the Saints, he only had 16 carries. So it wasn't like he had 25 carries in total. He only had 16. He had a couple touchdowns. They destroyed the Saints. It was just a blowout from the beginning. But he didn't even dominate from that perspective. So now you wonder now with Charbonnet back, how Walker is going to be utilized tonight in this very intriguing game. We have a side coming up on that game coming up. So we have a little more to talk about with this game straight ahead. So let's transition now to UFC as it heads to Australia, Perth, Australia for UFC Perth. And Lee, it's time now for a second hidden gem.
To find a diamond in the rough, you need to dig a little deeper for those hidden gems.
God, we're everywhere today. Baseball, college football, NFL, UFC, knocking it all out. So, Lee, what do you like with UFC Perth coming up on Saturday?
All right, so this is one of the fights kind of sitting in the middle. It's not, not the main fights, not an early prelim, but we've got Jake, the Celtic Kid Matthews, who hails from New Zealand. So be a bunch of fans there for him. He's 22-7, and he's a big favorite, minus 400 here against Neil, the Haitian sensation, Magny. Matthews, just 31 years old, kind of coming to his prime. He's been in the UFC for a long time, and Magny is 38. So you're thinking, do I want to take Magny? He might be long in the tooth. Well, he actually has the better gas tank here. And why has he lost a couple fights of late? 3 of his last 4? Well, had to face some of the top prospects. They've been feeding him top prospects for the last year and a half, 2 years. He is not a top 10 guy, but he's one of these guys that's been inside the top 15 a bunch of times. He is going to give you a good fight when he trains hard. I think that Matthews, the public would love to see him get a submission or a knockout. I just don't know if it's going to take place. I think he's going to have to ration his gas tank. Magny's really long, and he doesn't want to take a chance of getting submitted. Jake Matthews did get a rear naked choke submission his last fight, but the 3 fights before that were all decisions here. So Magny has been up there close to the mountaintop, and then you got Matthews who's coming up. I think these 2 guys are almost pretty similar as far as talent here, and I think that there's going to be the first round where they're going to feel each other out here, and then Matthews might try to exert his dominance here, but he's going to, like I said, he's got to be careful here. I think the best way to look at this fight is not take Matthews laying the 400 or even Magny plus 315. I'm going to go over 2.5 rounds here, minus 135. So different ways to skin a cat here and different ways to bet, football games, baseball games, and also the UFC fights. And I'm going to take a different approach here. So we're going to go with the over 2.5 rounds, minus 135 here in the Jake Matthews and Neil Magny fight in UFC Australia.
All right, and looking forward to that on Saturday, along with all of the other action in college football. So very busy day to watch those fights and then get to the college football. And next we will break down the Seahawks and the Cardinals Week 4 of the NFL kicking off tonight inside the NFC West. All that is straight ahead right here on Locked On Bets. Locked On Bets continues here on a Thursday. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports. And we start up Week 4 of the NFL tonight. The Seahawks, can they stay hot on the road? They go to Arizona to face the Cardinals off a heartbreaking loss to the Niners last week. And it's time now for our Lock of the Day.
Open it, open it, open it. Lee has the key to the Lock of the Day.
Arizona lost their top running back, James Conner, an ankle injury. He's done for the season. They lost that game last week to Mac Jones and the Niners on the road, so kind of a heartbreaker to lose that divisional matchup. And now Arizona back at home to host Seattle. Seahawks over the last year have been great on the road. And Lee, what do you like with this? The Seahawks a short 1.5 point favorite against the Cardinals.
Okay, a lot of things. There's layers here to this game. And Seahawks have always dominated Arizona. In fact, won each of the last 7 meetings here, going 5-1-1 against the spread. And you're looking at Arizona. You're like, okay, 2-1 record. That's pretty good here. But they had a chance to be 3-0 last week. They had a win percentage going into the fourth quarter, and throughout the fourth quarter, the odds were in their favor of winning that game. Just couldn't get it done. One of the guys I've been disappointed in watching is Marvin Harrison. I mean, just the concentration is not there. Some key drops here. I don't know what's going on with him, but he doesn't look the guy I thought he was going to be ascending, be a top 5 or at least top 10 receiver, not even top 20 in my book right now. So the talent right now doesn't match the output. Also, felt they got lucky facing some pretty mediocre to poor quarterbacks first 3 weeks. Got to face Bryce Young, Spencer Rattler, and Mac Jones. So that's been good. Their defensive numbers have not been good. Sometimes the numbers don't lie. They're 26th in success rate allowed, 28th in passing success rate allowed. And, you know, like I said, numbers don't lie. And not like they're playing good teams here. Both teams do have 2 common opponents, and it's New Orleans and San Francisco. Seahawks beat New Orleans, spanked them by 31. And Arizona was outgained. That's right, outgained by the Saints, who I think are tanking this year. So early money here has come in on Seattle, and I think it's the right side here. They start off as a 1.5 point underdog, now a 1 point favorite. I don't think it's going to matter. Key numbers in football betting are 3, 4, 6, and 7. You're not near that number. Let's play it right now. We're going to take Seattle here, minus the 1 point as a level 2 lock.
Before we get out of here today, we get set for another big football weekend. Week 4 of the NFL starts tonight. College football begins as well. So what's going on with Paramount Sports?
Yep. So getting ready for it. It's going to be a fun weekend here. College football is loaded. Really good card also in the NFL. Had a 5-0 Sunday and Monday NFL wind up here at my company, ParamountSports.com. You're looking for winners. A couple different options for you this weekend. Still September, so we're going to leave up the September to Remember special. What that is 1 week of selections through Monday night. You're going to get probably 12, 13, 14, maybe even 15 selections where we star rate them from 10 to 50 units, just $97 if you use coupon code SAVE100. So it's the same as the Baker's Dozen, but you're probably going to get a game or 2 more, and we're going to star rate them from a low of 10 to a high of 50 units. It's almost October, so we're going to roll out the Locktober special. 5 weeks if you use coupon code SAVE100, just $497 of our phone service. Same way, rate them from 10 to 50 units, and comes out to less than $100 a week. And the UFC, big card going up in Australia. 7 selections, including a rare 35-unit best bet, just $37. And baseball playoffs, get everything in the baseball playoffs and the player props. Getting hot again there too. So everything's up and available, just one place, ParamountSports.com, or you can reach me, 800-400-9741.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On Bets, as well as the podcast. You can subscribe to that at Spotify or on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, you can find Lee on X at Paramount Sports, myself at Rogers Picks. And we'll be back with you coming up on Friday. More football selections heading into the weekend. For Lee Sterling, I am Kevin Rogers. You've been listening to Locked On Bets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.